So I had a request to show how to adjust your vacuum lift on a 370, Sapphire 370, which is going to be shown here on your vacuum lift gauge. And this is your vacuum brake, or your relief valve, or relief spring, or you'll hear a different name for it, depending on who you're talking to. And most truck mounts utilize a mechanical spring. Some get a little fancy. Somebody had an electric one for a while. Usually it's on the line going from the blower to your tank. Sometimes it's on the tank end. Hydromasters, it's actually built into the side of the tank, usually on the back side. But they're all going to be pretty much the same thing. You're probably wondering about these washers here, which don't look factory. But keep in mind, these trucks are built in Prescott, Arizona, which is considerably lower than where I live and work. So I needed to put more tension on it to run it at 14 inches of lift with 100 feet of hose on, which is my typical run. If you're running 200 feet all the time or whatever, 50 feet, you want to adjust it for that. So put your vacuum hose on with the cuffs or whatever. I use flash cuffs, which do leak a tiny bit, but you're going to compensate for it here. So pull out the cotter pin, loosen up the lock nut. You can spin it off if you want. And the reason I have these washers here is because I ran out of thread, and I wanted to push that spring further in. They only thread this rod so far, so I think only this fat one here is factory. So I had to add 6 to get it so that with 100 feet of hose on, it's coming up to about, actually it might come up a little higher on this one, maybe 15-ish or so if I really hold it tight, but I'll put my palm over the end of the hose and create just a hair of leak. You can also put a cap from a jug of powder on there, but if your cuffs have no leaks whatsoever, create a tiny bit of leak there, and then just start tightening your spring with your wrench until you get it to 14 or so. 14 is about the industry standard. I think some of these machines might come at 13, but keep in mind it's almost never going to be at 14 on a small machine like this when you're cleaning, because you got vacuum relief at the glide, possibly around the glide, or at the hoses. There's a lot of different places for it to leak, and this machine will run somewhere around 12 or so typically as you're cleaning, if you were to look at the gauge, and that's fine. That's plenty of lift and CFMs to clean your normal carpet. If you were cleaning 400 feet every day, you'd have a bigger machine than a 370, but you could crank it up a little more depending on your blower and motor size, especially if it's a PTO where the van motor can take a little more stress than a lawnmower engine. So get it where you want it, put your lock nut, spin 2 wrenches on there, tighten it up, put your cotter pin back on, and don't forget to lube it once in a while, especially on Fridays. You're taking the weekend off. I typically don't lube it every day. I'll just run it for 5 minutes or so while I'm wrapping up hoses. I'll wind it down a little bit and just let the air dry the blower. But if you're going to park it in your garage, you might have some humidity or whatnot. These things have the little spray cap, but they don't extract all that well. I'm so damn tall. I just put my WD-40 into the relief hole there and spray for 5 seconds or so, and then again let it air dry for a minute or two, and you're good to go. So hopefully that helps. Ask any questions below, and keep on sucking.